podcast. So excited to have you here for episode 94. And we are going to be talking a lot about Facebook Live. I have Jessica James on, and she is actually a library media specialist with a high school out of Alabama, about 300 students, so small school. She goes live all the time. And we're going to be breaking down how long, a checklist of things that you should make sure to check ahead of time, some equipment, and then a lot of examples and kind of what she has been through doing Facebook Live. So I'm really excited for you to learn from her today. Special ask today, you guys, if you love this podcast and you've been around for all 94 episodes, or you're just starting in 2022 and you're like, oh my gosh, Andrea's my new school PR BFF. Well, it would really help me reach more people if you would leave me a review on this podcast. Now, most people listen on Apple Podcasts, but wherever you listen, if you could be a dear and just leave me a little review, let people know how helpful this podcast has been. That would mean so much to me as I start this year off, just trying to reach and help and inspire and support more school communicators out there. So now, without any further delay, let's get to today's episode. All right, today's K-12 PR tip is very simple. You need to try Facebook Live. That's right. Before the end of this week, or if you're listening to this on a Friday, then you got next week, I want you to try Facebook Live on your page. It might freak you out. You might be really nervous. Just do it. It's very easy to do right from your phone. You don't need any major equipment. Today in the interview, Jessica is going to share some helpful equipment that's possible to make it easier, but you don't need it. So whether you're interviewing students on an upcoming event that's coming up, whether you're showcasing a experiment happening in the third grade classroom, or some poetry being read in the high school English classroom, or maybe you're going live from a pep rally or an athletic event, I want you to try Facebook Live. The only way to learn is to try it. You're not going to get any better by just being scared of it. And so Facebook Live is a really powerful way to get out and get connected with your community, with your followers. So my tip this week is just do it. We do have right in the show notes a nice Facebook Live checklist that may be helpful for you, just to make sure that you got your ducks in a row before you get started. But other than that, you got this. And when you try it, I want you to email me, Andrea@socialschoolforedu.com. You let me know that, Andrea, I did it. Here is the link. And it's either going to be awesome, or it's going to be you maybe screwed something up. But guess what? You learned something. So that's what we're all about. All right, let's get into today's interview with Jessica James. Welcome to the podcast, Jessica.
Hi, how are you, Andrea?
I'm doing really well. I'm so excited that you could carve out some time today to chat with us. You are the library media specialist at W.S. Neal High School.
That's correct.
And you were part of our challenge just a few months ago and talked a lot about Facebook Live. And then I'm like, Jessica, you got to get on my podcast so you can share some feedback and some helpful tips with us. So why don't you kind of introduce yourself, share some of your background and your role there at the school?
I am, like you said, the high school librarian here, very small rural town in Alabama. I've been in education for 17 years. I've been here in my current position for the past 4 years. Working with social media in the various schools that I've worked at since 2015. So I've been at it a while, but not until I got to the high school did I really get into incorporating live and using it as a tool to reach parents and stakeholders.
Sure. So how big is your high school? About how many students?
About 300 students.
Okay. And so you are the library media specialist.
Correct.
And then in addition to those roles, what kind of, do you just manage a Facebook page, or do you manage other social channels as well?
I'm also the yearbook sponsor. So I have an Instagram for our yearbook. I have an Instagram for the library, but haven't done a lot with that. The main school Facebook page, the school website, you name it. Even with the other people, I kind of am their go-to person. I make graphics for everybody, a little bit of everything.
Okay, awesome. And so you are in the library, and I mean, it's a smaller school, high school,
Mhm.
so 300 students. How do you get content for your pages, just like regular photos and things like that?
Well, it helps that I'm also the yearbook sponsor. So I have a staff of students that can help, but I've asked teachers to send things to me all the time, but that doesn't always work. So I constantly go and try to anything we have going on. I go and I go live, and they're so accustomed to that now. They know when they see Miss James walking around with her phone, we better make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Our parents are going to see that she's going live. So anytime we have anything going on, I'm always there. I make myself available. If teachers have something special going on and they let me know ahead of time through email or call me real quick on our class to class system, I try to show up anytime, anywhere, how however they can get a hold of me. You never know from day to day how they're gonna let me know what's going on.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to kind of dial into some of the how to's with equipment and things that you have done. But just to kind of start off, everybody right now, you do utilize Facebook Live a lot. Can you tell me about a few of your videos that have done really well for the high school?
Absolutely. Well, in small town Alabama, football is king here. And we have our pep rallies in the afternoons. So obviously, and even more so with COVID, parents weren't able to attend because our campus had to be closed. So I try to cover pep rallies because that's an important part, especially if you have a child that's a senior that parents want to participate in. So I cover pep rallies. And that's been a huge success. And then anytime that we have little things going on, one thing that comes to mind, we recently had our faculty Christmas party. And I just shared for a moment, I kind of knew a gag gift that was going to come out. And one teacher had made one of the classic classroom Christmas ornament glitter handprints. And that was her gift that another teacher opened up. And so I shared a funny video of that. And he's like, what is this? And I was amazed at just how people responded to that because it was just seeing a different side of the day-to-day life of a teacher. And they loved getting that behind the scenes look. I'm always amazed the stories that you think people would just love and the content that you expect them to love obviously does well, but it's those rare, weird things that people just love getting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. I was just before we got on, I was watching that video of the gag gift, so I love that. Everybody's got one of those handprint ornaments on
Yeah.
their tree from their own child, but not from another teacher. So,
Yeah.
so that was good. Now, you also did a post during the Facebook challenge that reached almost 12,000 people. Can you share what kind of video that was?
I can. I did a video one video that I did, I think you're referring to the one about Haley. I did too. The one I did was just having the students invite kids to come to their basketball game. And that one was amazing. Just having the students do it. Normally, I would make a poster, little graphic, and put up on Facebook, but having the students be the ones to invite the parents to come out made a huge difference. And I would not have thought of that without your help. But then I did the story you asked about the personal interest story. So Haley, who's one of my students, and I've known for many years, she and her family, her mom and her two siblings were hit by a train. And she was a cheerleader at our school. The train's kind of a running joke in town. It crosses both sides of our town. And so we're always getting caught up by the train. Everybody's always late at some point in time because of the train. And so they were going home and were distracted by Christmas lights and were hit by the train. And so my story was all about her recovery from working her way back from not being able to walk. She had to go homebound, missed a great deal of school, and had to stay home because she couldn't walk. She was immobilized because of how bad she had broken her ankle, shattered her ankle. And so she talked about how she worked her way back and just never gave up. And it was just such an encouraging story. And it actually reached that many people. But then we have in Alabama, a guy who has over, I'm trying to remember, almost 200,000 followers on Facebook, and he shares various personal interest stories. And he's actually asked through seeing that on our Facebook page if he can share her story. And none of that would have happened had you not pushed me through the challenge to share those stories. I never would have thought about sharing something so personal. And obviously her mom was down. I got her mother's permission and shared everything I had planned to post ahead of time with that. But little things like that that you don't think about, just to give a different look. They all know and want to know what's going on with your school events and, your basketball games and who's having this fundraiser or that fundraiser. But it just gives a look into the life of students and what they go through and how hard they work, in Haley's case, to overcome such obstacles, which was just amazing how that story just exploded. I knew it would do well, but never would I have guessed would have done like it did.
So I was misleading. So you did a video challenge and did a video invite to some, that was one day of the challenge. Another day of the challenge was share a story of a student who has really overcome some really challenging obstacles. Was that via video or was that a picture with some text?
That was the picture with the text. And I shared some pictures from the accident, and the vehicle and what that looked like.
Oh, wow. So we'll make sure to get a link to that post, just so that people can see that. I mean, I see right here, you've got 3,440 people currently that like your page, almost 3,800 people that follow that. But that post reached 12,000 or maybe even more by now if it got shared by a page that had 200,000 followers.
It's in the works. He had to get some special permission since she's, a teenager, but we're in the works for that right now.
Okay, that's awesome. And that's the thing too, Jessica. I mean, not only like a platform like that, but sometimes it's news outlets, right, that get a story because you first shared it on social media, and then all of a sudden maybe they're featuring it on their news program or in their syndicated newspaper. And sometimes these things can go viral on a national level. I don't really think that's ever the goal. However, spreading positive stories, I mean, everybody needs to hear these stories, and why not stories from your school, right? Yeah, that's really positive. So Facebook Live.
Yes.
It can be really intimidating, Jessica, because people are scared. And one of the challenges that I gave everybody at the beginning of this episode is just do it. Go live. Because you learn something every time you do it. You learn something, and you either fail or you learn. Or you win and you do it right, or you learn. There's no failing. So let's break down what you need to be successful. So first of all, if I want to do Facebook Live, what kind of equipment do I need?
Well, I actually have my little microphone. And you can get any kind of microphone, but this is the Rode. I wrote the exact name down. What is it called? The Video Mic EL. I have the one that's for an iOS device.
Okay.
They're around $60, $70, but you can see it's got like what the lightning attachment that you would use. And it has a little muff on it that breaks down the sound. But this plugs into the bottom of my phone. And this is pretty much it.
She's showing it on the video version. Remember, this podcast is also on YouTube.
Sorry, guys.
But those of you who are just listening, we'll make sure after this, Jessica, we'll get that exact link for the microphone you use. So you use that one, and that is enough to pick up people if they're farther away.
Absolutely. It makes all the difference in the world, especially when we have our pep rallies, they are in the gym. So the background noise in the gym is just crazy. So this really cuts down on the background noise and amplifies. So I circulate throughout the gym during our pep rallies, but it just, the sound quality, I've played with both ways, makes all the difference in the world. And I've also used like a selfie stick.
Okay.
And Rode actually has a little package that you can get. I looked earlier at B&H, and I think it's like $150, which is very reasonable. And with that, you can get the microphone I just was speaking about, a stand, which is also a tripod, which is great if you're going to do like a one-on-one interview to stabilize your phone, and a little light that goes on it. I haven't gotten that fancy to have a light or anything like that. My go-to, and I just keep the little microphone in my backpack that I bring to school every day. It doesn't weigh anything. It doesn't have to be charged. It plugs in just like your phone charger would. And that's it. That's all I use. And just making yourself available, and walking around, now, in talking about, I may be getting ahead of myself. The main thing is to orient your phone. I always turn my phone so that it changes the view of your video. It does much better. And you have to do that once you start your live. You can't, if you don't do it before, it won't work. So
people are going to be, and what she's doing is she's describing like putting it into landscape mode when you're on Facebook. A lot of times when we do video on like Instagram, a lot of that is more vertical view, with Instagram reels and stories and that. With Facebook, she's saying go landscape. But if you go landscape, you have to flip that and make sure that when you type in the title of your video that you're typing that going sideways, because if you change it after you start, everybody's going to have to turn their head in order to watch your video, because if they start to tilt their own camera to watch it, guess what? The auto tilt usually goes on unless they've disabled that, and then they have to turn their head again. So it's very
correct.
challenging.
And you also, like for me, especially in a pep rally or any, I'm usually trying to get the most kids as I can. You get a wider picture when you go in landscape mode than you do when you leave it in portrait mode.
Yeah. That's a very important thing. And you guys, if you screw up on that, it's okay. Like it's pretty challenging to try to flip that. It's like you really got to strip it off your page and then use a different app. So I wouldn't recommend going to that trouble. You could just put in the description, hey, sorry about the tilt of the camera, but just enjoy the video. And a lot of times people still do enjoy it. The other thing I guess I want to say, and maybe you would, is make sure you do put a little description title before you go live, right?
Absolutely. And also, I've been, like I said before, I've been going live for a long time. So they expect now, they know our pep rallies are usually during football season and I go live for lots of things, but especially when I've gotten into a routine, and I just keep referring to that because that's what I do on such a, timed routine. They know on Fridays at 2:00, they're going to be looking for that notification that I'm going live. Well, I've been doing that now for 4 years almost. So up until that point, when I first started doing it, send your parents and make a simple, quick post and let them know, hey, in 5 minutes, I'm going to be going live. Well, in a small town, especially like we are, they get out their phone, they're telling everybody, hey, the kids are going to be on, and of course they start sharing once it comes on, but just giving a little bit of a heads up so that if they're at work, they can get into their office or get somewhere quiet or take their break really quick. Making that available to them really helps a lot. Like you said, using a title, making a description, things like that make all the difference in the world, because I found a lot of alumni, they may not have a connection to our school at all, but they love to come back and watch our content. Especially we're in a new school building that we've only been in for 6-ish years. And so they love when we're going around the school to see things. Oh, I see that new classroom, or you've got this. They love that sort of thing. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong. And like you said, if you forget to turn your phone into landscape mode, like you said, just be upfront and honest. There have been plenty of times when I have been on and get too far away from the Wi-Fi router, especially outside, and say, "Oh, sorry, I lost connection. I'll be right back." Or they'll tell me, Miss James, you've got your camera blocked with your hand when you're holding your phone. You don't realize, and just laugh about it. No one has ever said anything ugly or been rude. Everyone is so supportive that you're willing to put that content out there to help them see what's going on with their students. And I don't like to be in front of the camera. And that's the great thing about Facebook Live. When I turn that camera towards the students or whomever I'm showing, I'm behind the camera. Occasionally, they may hear me chuckle or laugh at what's going on, but you don't have to be on camera. And that's the great thing about Facebook Live that takes away some of that fear. You can flip the camera out and you don't ever have to show your face on camera unless you want to.
Right. And just capturing the little moments is important. I like that you talked about, when you start doing this, letting people know ahead of time, whether it's 5 minutes or whether it's, hey, it's the beginning of a homecoming week and you know that you're going to broadcast the parade or a pep rally, letting parents know ahead of time, hey, we're actually going to go live at this time, and you can
Mhm.
watch it live. Or obviously, do you recommend and do you always post your live videos to your news feed, or do you ever take them, you don't post them? What's your opinion on that?
It depends on what we have going on. Sometimes if we have a sports team going to state or something like that, we love to, small school, we can do these kinds of things. We'll line up the halls outside and cheer them on. If it's something that I think people might find value in, I just use a judgment call, honestly. I don't always say, and sometimes the Wi-Fi may act up, and when I get ready to post, it may not work. Don't stress yourself out about it. Anything that you do to get your content out is going to be so well received that you don't, just use your judgment for all of it. I used to be, in my administration, used to be very scared of going live because they were so nervous about what the kids were going to do. But our kids will surprise us sometimes, and my students love to ham it up for the camera. So when I'm walking by, no matter what's going on, they're really going to ham it up when I go by. I've never had one, in all the years, never had one inappropriate incident ever happen before. So just, try it. And that, to me, is so much easier. Honestly, Facebook Live, I would much rather go live for something than spend time on Canva and make a graphic, because I'm a perfectionist. So if I'm on Canva designing some sort of graphic, I can find myself 3 hours later still trying to get it just exactly how I want it. Well, with Facebook Live, it is what it is, and that's okay. I like it. The imperfect makes it perfect, I think.
Yeah, and it's relatable, and people, there's a time and a place for perfectly edited video or maybe that graphic that you need. But you can be in the moment, and even like you said, it might be an invitation to an upcoming event. You can just do a Facebook Live instead of sharing a flyer that probably isn't going to reach very many people. I got a couple questions.
Mhm.
So you've mentioned Wi-Fi a couple times. So is that one
Mhm.
thing that you should just make sure you check ahead of time, that you've got a good signal before you kind of start?
Absolutely, especially when I'm in the library. So I kind of have a good idea. So if I'm in here, I know my area, I know my surrounding, it's not a problem. But when you go into an auditorium or a gymnasium, or one thing that comes to mind with me, we had a pep rally on the football field, and that came to mind, like, oh goodness, the Wi-Fi password was different, and it's time for me to be going live, and no one knows the password to the Wi-Fi. I'd gotten a new phone, so I didn't have it saved anymore. So just little things like that. I try to always give myself a good 5 minutes before to just check everything, go through my steps of making sure I'm going to orient my phone make a title. If it's been weather really affects our Wi-Fi. So I try to make sure if it's been bad weather, okay, and can I go live? And if I can't, I always let our followers know, hey guys, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to go live today. We're having technical difficulties, but I always will let them know so that they're not constantly sitting there getting frustrated because we're not showing up.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
And you can always, in those cases, you videotape it and then you post the video later. So it's not live, but at least you're giving it to them.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
yeah, if they were expecting you to go live, you're going to want them to know.
Yes.
So we have a Facebook checklist, a handy checklist that I'm going to include in the show notes, everyone. So you guys can check some of those things out. But just the note on the Wi-Fi as well. If you're in a big event like a graduation where like everybody's on Wi-Fi, you may want that different Wi-Fi channel that you have access to that's different than all the guests, because you're going to make sure that you have a good connection. Question on length of videos for Facebook Live, Jessica. And I think I know the answer because I've seen some of your videos, but some people are like, well, can I go live for 30 seconds or does it have to be an hour, or what's the perfect time? What would your answer be to that?
I've been all over the board. When I did the Facebook challenge, it was probably the fastest one I've ever done. It was just 3 kids, tell their name, what grade they're in, come to our game. That was it. I don't know that it was 30 seconds. And then probably, obviously graduation and things like that are eons long. But then we had Auburn University has a Raptor Center. And our mascot is the Blue Eagles. And so they came down during our big rivalry week and they brought several of their Raptors. And so I went live for that because that's a very rare event to happen. That's not something that happens even once a year. I don't know. That's never happened before here. And so I went live for the whole thing. It was a little over an hour. When I was finished, I was very upset with myself for not bringing my little selfie stick thing to help hold my phone. So for an hour, I'm holding my phone in landscape mode. That's a little long if you're holding your phone on your own, but people watched and different people were coming in and coming out. To me, that's a little long unless it's an event like a graduation, but you can do it. That's the great thing about Facebook Live. Try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. What I do doesn't always work, but they just want to see their kids. They want to see what's happening at the school. People who are alumni, like I mentioned before, they love, oh, you've got Auburn there, War Eagle, they just get excited with whatever you're sharing. So, but to me, an hour is a little bit long, but again, use your judgment.
Yeah, there's no perfect length, but Facebook does provide some advantages to Facebook Live. They're notifying your people. They give it a little bit of boost in the algorithm, so it tends to reach a few more people, and some consistency behind it, like you've done, Jessica, where your community almost starts to accept it. You're going to get a more engaged audience. They're going to know that you are sharing and celebrating the school in a different way, and you're going to see some benefits in your reach numbers and interaction and things like that. So I love it. So beyond Facebook Live, Jessica, just as we kind of finish out here, what are some of the best stories that you've been able to share from your school on social media?
I love to share when we had, especially during COVID, just stories about your students. And I'd love to do a better job of that. I wear a lot of hats. We all always want to do more. But just sharing little stories about what's going on with your students. We have a coach at our school this year, so that was a student here, and he's just come back and he's coaching for his first year this year. So I'm working on a story right now to try to share how he's come home Got offered some much bigger, more lucrative offers, but just felt such a heart to come back to the school that made him and give back to our community. And so that's my next personal interest story that I'm trying to work on. And we have a new barn at our school. So anything new that's happening, we're in South Alabama. So FFA is huge here. So we have a great FFA program, Future Farmers of America, for those of you in big cities. And we got a huge new barn, and we have cows at school this year, and our students take care of the cows. So that was a huge post when I went and took some super cute pictures and shared the cows, and did some challenges on Instagram where students or stakeholders, parents could submit names, and we kind of did a little competition to help name some of the cows, and anything that you have going on. We decorate the halls for Halloween or spirit days, anything and everything that you can share of just what's going on. People love to see what's happening inside your walls. You don't really realize in a school how closed off you sometimes are during school hours. During the events, everybody knows and they see they can attend. But those doors, especially now with COVID, everything is so closed off. So just to see a day in the life of, this is how we walk from this class to this class. This is what we've done to our bulletin boards. Anything that you can share will be very well received.
So as we wrap up, Jessica, what would you say is your best social media tip?
My best tip is to not be afraid to try anything. If you do something and it doesn't work, try something else. Just try it. This scares me to death, being on this side of the camera. So for those of you that are sitting there going, there's no way, I'm terrified, try it. I don't have to ever be on camera. I don't know that I've ever been on camera like this before. And they'll say, show your face, or what are you doing? But just try it. There's been plenty of times where I go, oh gosh, what was I thinking? Why did I do this? Why am I showing these kids doing this crazy cheer that they made up? Am I going to get fired? But we just laugh about it. It's not anything inappropriate. We laugh about it. And I try to also, one thing I didn't mention, interact in your comments. Pay attention to the comments, because a lot of times they'll ask a question and you don't want to ignore the piece. So if you can't answer right then, just say, as soon as it's over with, I'll get back to you. But do acknowledge that you're seeing what's being said in the comments. And if you don't feel comfortable during the live, wait until you've posted it, and then acknowledge it. But make sure that you pay attention to those comments.
Awesome. So be brave, and it's 2022. Just get out of your comfort zone a little bit and try it. And then don't forget to interact with the comments.
Yes.
You've given so much value here for everyone. We're going to make sure to link some of that equipment. We've got a Facebook checklist. Jessica, if people want to stay connected to you, what would be the best way to do that?
I am on Twitter at Miss James Reads. And if anyone would like my email address, I can give that to you and you can share that as well. It's jessica.james@esco schools.net. And then any of the social media, I run all of it for WS Neal High School. So you can reach out there too.
Yeah, so we'll link your Twitter and your email in the show notes, and we'll also link to all of your social media pages that you run, so people can definitely check that out. And I really appreciate your time today, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, because even you got me out of my comfort zone with the Facebook challenge. So guys, try it out. I was like, I do this so much, But I still, as much as I still learned something new. So thank you for all you do, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's fun being a cheerleader and a consumer of all of the great stories that are being told. And then I just try to become BFFs with people like you, Jessica, because then you inspire and I learn so much more. So thanks everybody for listening this week. We will see you next week with another great episode. Keep telling those stories. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.